Welcome to the Judgment Free Zone. You've downloaded the Alcohol-Free Marriage and More podcast, episode 58 for August 14th, 2023.
Now adjust the volume control so that the sound can be heard in all parts of the room.
Recorded live from the cornfields of Central Illinois, you're listening to the Alcohol-Free Marriage Podcast with Matt and Amy. Come and learn and share a journey with two former craft beer enthusiasts who went from daily drinkers to teetotalers and basically never lost their love for their life together.
Hey, a freak show!
Well, hello there, children. Welcome back to your weekly freak show that is the Alcohol-Free Marriage and More podcast. I am Matt, along with the always lovely, with her fancy hair, Coach Amy. How are you, my love?
My fancy hair.
Your fancy hair. We won't tell your secret about your hair. Apparently, it's not supposed to be. You don't talk about they don't talk about
Age
or hair.
Okay, let's talk about this. So many of you ladies maybe have heard of the product Juvabun.
Juvabun.
And I am not
in
any way
with this
affiliated or anything. No, I'm not any ambassador or anything like that, though
Just
I
a
am
fan.
considering it.
Just a big fan.
But with the Juvabun, they have little hair pieces. Now, I have good hair. I do.
You have better hair since you quit drinking.
I have great hair since I quit drinking. I actually got hair growth back.
Little known fact. It did not help me so much, but
Sorry. But on a day where you're just like, I just don't want to do my hair today, I went ahead and got a couple of the pieces. So it's like basically
it's
a
like
ponytail.
a toupee for ladies.
It's like a little ponytail thing. Here, you wrap it around. It's like a scrunchie that has hair. And the beauty of this is it literally takes
seconds.
Yeah, a couple minutes to do it. And I get so many compliments. But like I said, yesterday I wore my hair in my real ponytail, did the whole thing. No. But today I'm like, oh, I've got this going on or whatever. I'm just going to quickly do it. And so I was very, very fortunate that for some reason, for me, the color match is on
point.
Spot on. You even didn't realize that I had one until I showed it to you.
Well, clients of Coach Amy and Joy on the other side do expect the highest quality of hair when they get on those video chats. So if you want a coach with great hair, contact Coach Amy.
It's one of those things where you're just like, okay, I don't have time for this. And it's hot and it's gross in Illinois. As many of you know.
So what you're saying is you're faking your look right now.
Yeah.
All right. Well, moving on from hair talk.
And it looks good on your head too. You look like a beetle.
Yes. Yeah. If you like hair talk, please subscribe to our podcast. Comments, a 5-star for the hair talk would be awesome.
So that's the more.
Share. That's the more. You're like, oh, could you just get rid of the more? Maybe just go back to alcohol free.
So sorry, guys.
But if you want something a little more productive for your day, you can always go to jointherside.com and download our 7 tips that helped us join the alcohol-free edition of 5 o'clock somewhere.
And coming very soon for Sober October, the alcohol-free spirit experiment is going to be going live again. And if you go to joyontheotherside.com, you will find the link. And right now there's $100 off if you sign up until September 15th. But I just want to also reiterate, already. This is a program for women. So that's
it's a really cool program. I put a lot of work into it.
And it's going well. We have had, we've
done a
third
or fourth round.
This will be the third time, but we have a wonderful, wonderful cohort of women who have gone through it. We are doing some group coaching with a few of them right now still, and it really has been transformative for them. And I will say that one of the gals said until this, she had done a lot of the other programs, and what we bring into it is we bring in our faith, and that for them was the missing piece. So
that's awesome.
It's going really well.
Sober October, we only get sober in months that rhyme.
Rhyme, exactly. You can sober September. That is, so it's not a great one. But any month that you decide that you want to take a break from alcohol is a good month.
There's no rule. It doesn't have to be the first of the month even.
It doesn't have to be the first of the month.
It doesn't have to be a Monday. Yeah, there's no rules.
And I would also say if you want to do any type of behavioral change, don't wait.
Yeah.
Act.
Do. There's like Yoda. There's no try. There's only do. Mm-hmm. All right, Coach Amy, we need to get to our interview. So let's move along to our drink of the week. And don't forget to always check out our link to get $5 off your first order from Go Brewing, who happens to be my drink of the week this week because this is what I wanted to have, and it was in the refrigerator. Burn It Down IPA, which is one of their classic kind of one of their first ones they had. Which is,
you really like it.
I like the double IPA. Really set a new bar for me from them, and maybe, just maybe, they'll be on draft here in the cornfields. So I'm waiting to hear back on that little hookup.
I hope it happens.
So do I. And Amy, yours is?
Mine is the cucumber melon mojito
From Mingle.
Mingle. Sorry, there is a lot of M's.
We don't have the can in front of us because she drank them all.
Well, I found it in the refrigerator last night. It was the last one as I was going through, and I'm like, I need to drink this because it's going to go bad. But you will see the picture and everything.
Yes.
I put fresh.
You're on the YouTubes, kids. Check it out.
Yes, and I put fresh cucumber and fresh mint and
only 60 calories.
only 60 calories. Delightful. I want to say it just, and even adding like the little extra melon, the slices in there. Not melon. I added in cucumber slices.
No calories there, probably.
Oh my gosh. So good.
There you go. So check out
I want to get
Mingle.
some more. Got to get some more.
Okay. Well, thank you for that, Amy. Okay. Well, let's get on. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Okay. I feel like Joe Pesci all of a sudden.
Okay.
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 All right, Amy. Let's get to our interview with Karina. Can you tell us a little bit about Karina?
Okay. Karina was born in Longmont, Colorado, but at the age of 9 years old, she was moved to Peru with her family, and they lived there until she was age 15 when she moved back to the States. And the experience of living in another country and having to learn a new language had a strong impact on her life and gave her a unique perspective on culture and community. She developed a strong interest in serving the Hispanic community, both in the U.S. and abroad, and her commitment to this community is the essence of her life's work. Karina's own struggles and challenges with alcohol inspired her to pursue the This Naked Mind certification, and she became a coach. That's how her and I met, and we've become like kind of instant friends, and I absolutely love it. She is a mom, a wife, a fitness instructor, and a businesswoman, and she works with her clients to help them identify their strengths, values, and passions, creating their vision for their ideal life without alcohol. And we will just go ahead and go right to the interview now. Welcome, Karina Koplock, to the podcast. I'm so happy that you're here. This is one of those relationships where you and I connected through a coaching circle through This Naked Mind. And it's a coaching circle that one of the other coaches organized. And you and I got connected. And it just really, I don't know, I think you felt it too. We both had kind of this connection to each other, and that has been just such a joy to be able to go, and then like when our time ended, it was kind of, for me, I'm like, oh man, this kind of is sad. So tried to continue reaching out to you and just fostering that friendship. And so I asked if you would be on the show, and you said yes. And so today we're going to talk about your story.
I am so excited to both of you, actually. And I finally get to meet you. I heard a lot about you. Good things. But you're right, Amy. It was like an instant connection we were like, I looked forward every single week because it ran 4 weeks.
Yeah.
And then we had the time, every week we had to be diligent with the time and in commitment. And it was such a breathe, and it was just so nice to hear about you and also your experience. And it was just fun. And I so enjoyed it. And when you asked me, I was like, yes. I told my husband, I'm like, I've been asked to be on Amy's podcast. So yes, I was excited about that.
Well, tell us, where are you from? A little bit about your life. I know that you have a family, and what you like to do for fun as well.
Yeah, so I'll tell you a little bit a little bit about myself. So I was born here in the States, and I in Colorado actually, and I lived here in the States till I was about 9 years old. So my dad passed away. He was American. My mom is Peruvian. So she decided to, at one point, she goes like, okay, well, we're just gonna move to Peru. That's where it was home for her. And so she picked up everything going into fourth grade, I think, or fourth grade, picked up everything and moved us to Peru. So it was my sister, just her, my sister and I, the three of us. And my sister is almost 2 years older than I am, but she is great with languages, always caught up everything. So I understood Spanish, but I did not speak Spanish. So that was a little bit of a cultural shock, going to school. Well, it was a school that it was all girls school, Catholic school. Uh, and they're very strict. So it was one of the things that I understood, but I did not write or read or anything else like that. And they did have English classes because it was nuns, American nuns. But that was my only English, an English. I mean, I aced it because it was easy. So it was really hard for me to kind of learn and got everything. And then kids learn everything and it's fine. So I was able to overcome that. And then just about when my sister had graduated high school, we wanted to move back to the States because of course you had scholarships and wanted to go to university here. And they're like, oh, you need to move back too. And I was going into 11th grade, in the middle of 11th grade. So there I was again, back again. So it was a cultural shock all over to kind of learning that. So I went there with school, and I was able to, graduated from criminology. Then I did a master's degree in MBA. I got a good job, started working, a lot, moved around all over the States, and I landed here in Atlanta, Marietta, in Georgia. My nephew just turned 18 years because my sister had moved here and she was pregnant. So I've been living here 18 years, and I met my husband sometime in that time frame, and we got married, and last week we had our anniversary. So it's been 14 years. And we have 2 boys, and yeah, life is good. Life is good. Of course, it has bumps and ups and downs, but and I certainly wouldn't. I see that you have your dog in the back of the background. I also have a wonderful dog too. He's part of our family. His name is Caillou.
Okay.
So yeah. So that's in a little bit about me. Yeah.
And what's your profession besides being a coach as well? I know that you've got some history there.
Yeah. So I worked for most of my, I wanted to go to law school. That's why I studied criminology. And I wanted to be a defense attorney. I tried one time after graduating, one time the LSAT, and I'm like, I didn't do well. So I said, I'll get a job and try again in a couple of years. Well, that job led me to work in higher ed. And I got paid really good, and I worked up the career ladder, and I stayed there for almost 14 years. So I never went back to law school. I got my master's in business administration. So I worked in higher ed, in admissions, for most of my career. And I worked also at GE. I did, after I left higher ed, I worked for GE doing, helping with anything software implementation, more like a project management. And back in about 6-7 years ago, I had always been an indoor cycling instructor. So I had this crazy idea that I'm like, I'm going to open a a business and indoor cycling. So I had that for about 2 years. I left GE, opened my own business, and then that kind of didn't work out too well after 2.5 years. It was just a lot of work. I decided to do real estate full time, and I still do real estate, but now, of course, I'm adventuring into coaching that I absolutely have fell in love with.
Oh, wow. Well, tell us about alcohol, your relationship with alcohol. When did that start? And then how did it progress? And ultimately where you're at now?
Yeah. So, and I started talking about how I moved to Peru, and how that identity of not having I felt like I was American. That was my first, English, but then I moved to Peru, but then my mom's Peruvian. So I always had some kind of identity, crisis. And I always wanted to fit in. I always felt I didn't fit in certain, groups of people. So I remember going out at 14. I went out to, which I still don't understand how, because my mom was kind of strict, but I don't know how I ended up going out at a club at 14 years old in Peru. I don't know. But I remember having my first drink at this place with two other friends, same age, and we drank rum and Coke. And I remember having, up to this day, I can't smell rum and Coke because it makes me like, ugh, because I remember how sick I got. I mean, I remember throwing up and all that. And I remember saying, I'll never drink again. My mom never found out. But in Peru, it's easy. It was, and I'm not sure if it was the time. I mean, years ago, it's gotten stricter, but you could go to the store and you could buy alcohol. You didn't have to have a certain age. So it was very accessible, always there. My mom, I never saw her drink, not until later, and not heavy. I mean, I had a glass of wine, but my mom was never a drinker. I wasn't around people that drank. But people in Peru and in the circle of friends and everybody drinks early on. You could even have alcohol in what they call your pre-prom, which is 11th grade. I mean, it's normal. Everybody drinks. You have drinks and
Like at the actual prom, they would have.
Oh yeah.
Oh wow.
Yep. And you stay up to 5 o'clock in the morning and then you go have breakfast. And everybody. So it's a very I laugh when people say like, oh, or in certain countries, oh, like here in the States, everybody drinks. I mean, we're talking that was legal. And I still think it is. I mean, people, you drink a lot. So it wasn't something and you graduated a year earlier then. So I wasn't that, by the time I had another drink, which was probably a year after, it was normal. I mean, it wasn't like I was drinking, getting hammered or getting drunk, but there was always alcohol around. So it's kind of, you build that immunity, what they call, right? You build up to it to drink. So when we moved back to the States, it was, again, we had a group I moved to Miami. So there was a lot of Peruvians still, so circles of Latin, Hispanic people around. They all drank. And it was just part of me. I mean, I laugh now because like when I said it before, it's very different 2 years ago than I'd say now to like my kids, but I always tell like I opened Miami Beach. Like this was when Miami Beach wasn't that happening. I was there. I was one of those people. I would know every single bar. I would go out. My only day off that I would have would be Mondays. I got a fake ID when I was 17 or 18. So I've been walking into those bars like it was like I owned them. And the only day I didn't go to party was Monday, I think. I had like 3 jobs. So I was never lazy. I mean, I was still going to school. It took me forever. Alcohol was always a big part. It wasn't, but I never it wasn't, I would say as time progressed, alcohol, I started drinking more, wanting to need it. When I was young, I would do more of a binge drinking, and then you would feel sick. And then I could easily go a week without it. But that was fine, and when I got a job that I started traveling a lot, it was every place I would go, every night, I would go out for dinner, big meetings, whatever. There was always wine there, but I would have 2 glasses of wine and then I would feel it the next morning. But again, it wasn't, nothing really bad happened to me. I never even considered not drinking because I remember my girlfriend years ago was about to date a guy, or she didn't want to date the guy because he didn't drink. And she asked me, well, do you find that weird? And I'm like, you would never, who dates a person that doesn't drink? Like, that's weird. That is weird. And I always had that idea, that there is something wrong with that person if that person didn't drink. So I come from that mentality, and I'm honest. I mean, that never, that would be, something strange. So I just thought of it like, you just need to control alcohol. I drank too much, and I would always get mad at myself if I would be at meetings. And then I'm like, oh, what did I say? Did I drink too much? And I never made a scene either. But, when you've had too much to drink, when you really can't quite remember what you said or what happened. And again, never thought that was a problem. I was making it, I need to learn how to control.
Yeah.
Because everybody else can, but not me.
It's always our fault. It's not the substance. It's
never.
No.
And that's what I kept, like, there's only 2, like, why couldn't I just leave it at 2 glasses of wine, right? 2 glasses of wine, that would have been it. Then came kids, and man, you would think I think I would have had more kids, and it hurts me to say this now, but I never would have said it or thought it through until I stopped drinking, that one of the reasons I think we never had more kids is I did not like being pregnant. And why is that? It's not because all the beautiful things that come with being pregnant. It was because I had to stop drinking. And that was really hard for me. I was mad at my husband for the 9 months. I was miserable. I didn't like it.
Missing out. Missing out too.
Oh, for sure. But, and I do have to say, my husband and I met, we both were heavy drinkers. Like, we like to party a lot, like what I call, again, not the heavy drinking that you wake up, but people think, oh, are you drinking at 11 o'clock in the morning? No, I'm talking about every weekend you come back from work, because we both had stressful jobs. We traveled, we would come back, and the weekends or the nights, every single night, we would cook with a bottle of wine or 2, or, always have to have a drink. There wasn't nothing, that would stop us. And especially, with kids, that didn't stop me either. It didn't. It was always, and I up to 7 years, that's when, the older I got, my relationship with alcohol was different. I needed it more than it needed me. I don't know if that makes any sense. I was dependent on that. Oh, we could never keep bottles of wine in the house because we would drink them all. So it was always, oh, are you going to stop at the liquor store, get some beer, get some, wine? We always had to have alcohol. It was, then when I wasn't working corporate, I was working more for me. That's when things started going down. I was at 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, telling myself, I work from home. I can do this. I can grab a bottle of, and I never liked white wine, because it would something with I would have a really bad headache, and it would go a lot faster. Like I would get tipsy or drunk very easily. But I guess I trained myself that that was fine, and I should learn how to drink wine, and that was more acceptable to drink white wine. Things that you put to your head, right? Oh my God, that is totally fine. It's white wine. It's not red wine, because red wine, that would be weird if you're drinking at at noon. But I can have a glass of wine.
Yeah.
It's not going to hurt me.
Yeah. Rosé all day,
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. And I was so proud of that, because I had to pick up the kids from school. I had to do that. I could drink 1 or 2 glasses during the noon, and then I can drink 1 or 2, in the evening, and then that starts adding up, right? You're having a lot more. I mean, so again, it is not that what people think and maybe it didn't happen all the time. But then that's when I started noticing, oh, I couldn't wait till Friday. Oh, because I had a stressful day. That was an excuse. Let's go. And I would have great fun with my husband. We would let's go and, let's go out and go out for dinner. And of course, we already had 1 glass of wine at home, and then we would have 2 more at the restaurant.
Man, familiar?
This sounds,
this sounds so
I'm listening
familiar.
to this and I'm like, this is like our story almost verbatim. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is exactly how we kind of progressed.
And I wanted to touch on what you said. You had fixation. You started to have thinking about that Friday night.
Yes.
I mean, for me, I've told people this, Tuesday afternoon, I would start thinking about Friday at 3 p.m. I mean, it would be like, okay, oh, all right. Yeah. You've got to get through the afternoon, and then tomorrow. And, it was just this.
And then it started Thursdays. Then it started Thursdays.
And I would probably
that's the weekend.
Yeah. And, or for me, I had different days off in the week. For a while, I didn't work on Wednesdays. So it'd be like, oh, well, Tuesday, I could have a couple.
Because you deserve it.
Yep. It's stressful. We've got this going on. I'm volunteering, and it sounds very similar.
Well, Karina, I think you're getting to the point of your story you're at is that dangerous additive part of, well, I'm already doing this, and I'm okay with that. So it's not a big deal if I just add this. So how slippery did that slope get for you as you kept going?
It was bad. It was bad. And I hate saying this, of course, not having my husband, here, but it was, and I take 100% responsibility of me, but it's harder when a partner doesn't say, you should stop. My husband never, up to this, he had never in his life would have said anything, no. Or he would be the one that would be like, never judge me. He let me be who I was. But I also never had accountability for somebody that, would tell me something. So, and when it came to the weekends or at night, whatever, he would never say, no, I'm not going to drink tonight. He would drink with me because we did that together. Yep. And I think that was the hardest thing, is try to, build a relationship that we've known from the beginning of drinking to going not drinking. But it was one of those things that I was like, there's something wrong, but I'm in denial. Mm-hmm. And I think, and I've thought about why so long after doing this work and trying to understand why it was in denial, because I still see the world outside right now, and nobody else thinks this way, right? It is normal. Yeah. It is normal. It would be me. I was the one that had the problem, because everybody else, not I think that, but people, because it's totally normalized. It is 100% normal to go out and drink. It is normal after a day out of work. Oh, go have a drink. And you see everything on social media. Everything is still, alcohol is so normalized. Yeah. That it puts it on me being the weird one, that I could not control that. I was not able to control alcohol and what it does. And so I think that was a problem. Perhaps if I would have heard more, awareness or what was going on, maybe it would have questioned me, but not until I started, questioning my relationship, that I started Googling, typical question. What is an alcoholic? Am I drinking too much?
You know the rule. If you're Googling, am I an alcoholic? You probably are, right? I mean, you might have a drinking problem. If you're Googling, do I have a drinking problem? You probably have a drinking problem.
Mm-hmm. Right. And it was like, it was hard. And I like saying this because people think that you have to hit rock bottom for something to happen. And I didn't have a rock bottom, because if I would have had a rock bottom, I'm embarrassed to say that, but I'm going to share it because if anybody can help with this, kind of make them, it never stopped me to, you know, how many times I was lucky enough not to get a DUI. Like, I don't understand. Like, God has been like, I don't understand how I never got a DUI with my kids in it. And that was the part that I was going to say, with my kids, because even though it was just from my sister's house to here, and I would never do like long drives, of course, but there are times, because I've always been the type of person, I'm more in control, you know, I can drive, and I would convince myself and everybody else in the world, because I was not the drunk person that would look hammered. I would look less hammered, tipsy, but totally in control. But when you can't remember the next day how you got your family, that is that's when I started questioning so many times. But it was not that one time, two times, three times. I would hate myself the next morning. I would hate myself and say, I will never do this again. But there I was the next weekend or a month after, something similar, or I'm not going to drink, or I'm going to control. That was a typical thing. I'm going to control. Next time when I go out, I'm going to have 2 drinks and that's it. And that was, and then you would wake up like Annie, like when Annie puts in her book about 3 o'clock in the morning, and I've heard it for so many people, that is the anxiety that I would get at 3 o'clock in the morning. What am I doing? Like, and then I would get mad at my husband, because why didn't he, like, how did we get to this? Why didn't he just say, hey, we need to stop drinking, right? Or, you know, I would just get mad at the world, at myself, but mainly about myself. Like, why couldn't I control myself about my drink? You know, I didn't make a scene. I didn't appear. Everybody else was having fun. And nobody else told me. There have been so many times that, if, of course, there were situations of me being drunk, but it was not just me, it's everybody else. Ha ha ha. You tell it as stories, like badges, right? So, oh, remember when we went to that U2, you know, apparently we went with all my friends and my sister and her husband. My husband, nobody remembers going to U2 unless it was a Facebook notification that we got years after. They're like, oh, you know, 4 or 5 years ago, you were at this concert. And I'm like, no, I wasn't. We had no recollection. So just little things like that. But that's what makes it so, that I there was so many times that I just brushed it off. It's like, oh, it's not a big deal. I'm fine. But it wasn't until I had been thinking about, so I can't remember the name of the app, but it was an app that kind of said, you need to stop, change your relationship with alcohol. And so I started looking into doing this was September. So September, October, November, I was looking at the app. You had to have accountability. And I had gone from, I was so happy. I had stopped drinking, not every day, maybe Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And then some days I drank more, and you have to put how many days you drank, but controlling, all I did was think about how I failed, or I didn't do this, or I drank more. And I'm like, but I started reading more into what alcohol does. And I remember just the facts. I'm a very facts person. I like, you know, what's the percentage? What do you do? And I was like, oh my God, does alcohol really do this? And I was like, there's no way. And I started doing my research on every single thing I could get about alcohol. And I guess maybe call me naive. I did not know. Like, I did not know that alcohol was poison, because I really thought that those were typical things that people say. You're like, no, wait. I was like, how on earth am I putting this in my body?
Everybody says it's poison. It's like we're even conditioned to hearing that. Well, everything's poison. Oh,
everything's bad for you.
Everything's bad for you. Everything causes cancer. I mean, how many times have we all said those things? And then, so it lessens it.
Yeah.
It makes it that it's not that big of a deal. So, oh yeah, well, so what? Everything kills you. Something's going to kill you.
Right. and then you wonder why people are having so many other issues, and sure, but then on your mind and your memory, and I'm like, how is this possible? And then I became like researching everything. I'm like, could this really be true or not? But again, still in denial. But I had that question, that I was like, there's just something wrong here. And I remember the first time we sat at the dinner table, the kids, of course, we had a bottle of wine, and one of my kids asked, can I have one of those sugary drinks, what, Gatorade? I can't remember what it was. And I said, no. By that time, they must have been 10 and 12. And I said, no. I said, that's full of sugar. And I can't remember which one of my kids called me out. And they're like, and you don't think that has sugar? Well, I said, well, it's different. He goes like, please explain to me, how is that different?
Oh,
I said, I don't know.
Called out.
Oh, man.
And then I remember getting so mad at them. But I'm thinking, I'm getting mad because I'm being called out, because it's the truth. You cannot be telling somebody how to model the behavior. And I think I had told you, Amy, at that same year, July, my youngest son got diagnosed with Tourette's and OCD. And I was like, yeah, like, no, he doesn't have that. Like, that's insane. Like, a lot of times I hear about Tourette's being people that scream out stuff. I'm like, that's not Tourette's, because that's the only thing I knew about Tourette's.
Mm-hmm.
But he had tics, and he gets them all different ones. So I took him to 3 neurologists, and after so many of denials and so many insurance papers that I got back, because I had taken him everywhere, he was diagnosed with, everybody said he had Tourette's and OCD. So that was really hard, because a lot of times I started doing research on that, and it's what you put on your body as well, sugar stuff, and people don't say what you can or can't do, because again, it is the industry of having sugar and dyes, and one of the things is not have anything that's sugary and that has a lot of color in it. That doesn't help. So they say change the diet. So I had that in my mind, and also we got told, he needed to be put on medication. And again, for anybody out there, everybody does whatever is good for them. But at that time, I just didn't feel good. I wanted to go through something that was more holistic, and I wanted to try a different variety of things before we would put him on medication. And so I had been holding off on that. And I've moved now till December of 2021. And it was New Year's Eve. I am on the computer with something. I can't remember what it was. I think I was doing a contract, or somebody had wanted to put an offer, and it was New Year's. I'm like, I'll just, finish here. And 7:00, we had bought champagne, and I had red wine, white wine. Yeah. So of course I started at 7 with white one, because it's New Year's. We had no plans. I felt good. We weren't going to be driving. We weren't going to do anything. We're just going to stay home. And I had 2 glasses or 3 glasses of white wine, which was nothing. I mean, it's New Year's, right? I'm staying home, and my son walks in all of a sudden. And part of Tourette's is that he has, his head starts telling him things that are like, it's caused by anxiety. So a lot of it is Tourette's, it's a lot by anxiety, and you go on tics, and your OCD kicks in too, just telling you things that your head is, it's weird. He really didn't mean it, but nevertheless, he was having some kind of anxiety attack, and he walks in, and he tells me, it was 10 of it. Yeah. He goes and tells me, I'm not happy with my life. I'm like, what do you mean? He goes like, I'm just not happy. I'm having all these thoughts, and I can't control in my head, and his anxiety. And all I can think at that moment is like, oh my God, like, I didn't know if he was suicidal, if he didn't like his life. He's telling me he hates his life, and all those things. And I'm thinking, my life I thought I had it good until that moment. And then here I am drinking. And I'm like, what if I need to take him to an emergency? And it was just chaotic. My other son started freaking out. So I said, let's do what we've learned. And I calmed him down. We did, breathing, what we had been told and stuff. So to make a long story short, within a matter of an hour, 2 hours, everything was calmed down. Everything had calmed down and we were in a good place. And that didn't stop me because I'm like, I'm proud of myself. I handled this situation. Well, let's go to the red wine and then let's pop the champagne because it was getting ready to be New Year's Eve. And I tell this story because even at that craziness that I thought this would be the moment that I needed to stop, it's still, alcohol is so controlling that because I had control, I was in my house, the situation had been diffused, everything was fine, then I deserve, because I'm the adult, I deserve to have
The reward.
that champagne because it's New Year's, because there's always something that you need to celebrate and to have. And I'll tell you that was the last time I had champagne. I didn't get drunk, I mean, per se. We had a dinner to see my in-laws and my brother-in-law and their kids and family. We had dinner. I didn't want to drink. And then I remember they're like, Karina's not drinking because we all drink all the time. I'm like, okay. So I had my glass of wine. I felt kind of forced to have it because it was weird. And then I remember saying to myself, this is a cycle. Like, what am I doing?
And was that New Year's Day?
No, that was January 2nd.
Oh, okay.
So January, so I always count I never had a drink again since January 3rd. And I am what Annie describes, or what it's called, spontaneous sobriety. I just didn't drink, but it was that episode of New Year's Eve. But I tell people it wasn't even then, or other people that hit what they call rock bottom, whatever you want to call it, because you could call that rock bottom, but your lowest point, you still go out there and do something stupid but it's not that you don't learn. I don't know what it was. It had so much control of me that night that should have stopped, but it didn't until I said, what am I doing? Like, I noticed a pattern here. And
you're in that cycle.
and my son's, situation, and my mom had, so it was my son, but then I felt something too, that I just felt like I continued to do that. And it could have been the reading that I've done, but I felt like my body had been asking me for so many years, this is not good for me. I don't know how to explain that. I had a little voice inside me and I believe that people need to listen to their bodies.
Yeah.
That they're like, I don't think you need to be drinking this. This is not good for you. And I felt that coming for a long time, but I finally heard that with a combination of my son, my mom, that same 2 days later, January 6th, she got diagnosed with cancer as well. And I was her care. I've always been her. I take care of her and my aunts. So all that kind of put me in place, and there I'm like, okay, we have got to. I've got to come through this, and alcohol is not going to help me, get through that. So
that inner knowing, like
yes,
that voice finally was very clear.
Yes.
That clarity. And I remember having those moments of clarity as well. But that clarity for you was so timely, especially like seeing, like, probably the cognitive dissonance was probably crazy, especially with your son going through that. But and I don't know if you feel like this, but what a gift that you were given at that moment to be able to say, oh my gosh, what are you doing? I don't feel good. And then a few days later to have that diagnosis that your mom has and be like, yeah, I have to be here.
Yeah.
I have to, like, me, my real self, free of all of this. I have to just be here. And how did that go? I mean, that had to be a huge a huge weight lifted, but also there's a lot of anxiety that has to come through with that now you've made this decision. I'm not going to drink anymore. So now what am I going to
And
do?
what did your husband think? Because like our
Yeah.
relationship, your relationship was kind of not built on alcohol, but that was one of your bonding things, right? How did that kind
You
of
know, it's been interesting because I never so I decided to not drink January. I don't think I told my husband till two or three. He was like, "Oh, you're not drinking?" No, I'm not drinking. Like it was, but it was days after my mom got diagnosed. So I think in his head, he probably thought it was a lot for me to handle because I got her in. I mean, I moved. I mean, daughter here was like I put her her first language is Spanish, so I wanted to make sure we got on college. It's like I was on the phone, she was in chemo, we got chemo surgery, everything within 2 weeks of her diagnosis. So I think at that time we didn't have time to like I didn't tell him I'm never going to drink again, and I still don't say that.
Mm-hmm.
And I just it was not talked
Mm-hmm.
until I want to say 2 or 3 weeks. We had a wedding. One of his friends was getting married end of January. And I remember him asking me, "You're not going to drink for the wedding?" I'm like, "I'm actually not." I said, I don't, I have too many things going on. So I think I put it in more that I was trying to deal with my son, Mateo, and whatever his thing was going in therapy. And, I said, I can't deal with alcohol right now. Um, and and I say the beauty of it is he never has asked me how I never asked him to stop drinking.
Sure.
He he hasn't stopped drinking, but if he's had since that year, if he's had more than four beers since that time, is like I've seen him, he'll have a like it's not even close. So you could pretty much say he has stopped drinking because like he barely drinks. But he loves what I do. He supports me 100%. He would never, and I'm thinking if it would have been the other way around, maybe I would have been telling him, come on, have a drink. Oh, because
Yeah.
nobody ever likes drinking by themselves,
Mm-hmm.
especially if it's a couple. I don't know about you guys, but it was a thing we did together, right?
Yeah.
So that
Mm-hmm.
thing has to be different. And he always says more, I think he is happy and probably has cut his drinking 90% just because he says he doesn't want to. Our kids are the happiest kids. I don't know what, because I talked to them and I've told them what I was doing from the beginning. And they kept saying about, oh, I don't like it when you drank, your eye would go down, or sometimes Papa would be like screaming and or fall asleep on the couch. And the kids love us being present. And I think that that's the biggest thing.
Oh, I I want to just say how amazing that is. Your story of just coming through this and I mean, just you knew you were struggling for a long time. Like this, but it was just what we were supposed to do.
Right. Right.
Just what we're supposed to do. But then all of a sudden, and when in there were you reading Annie's book? Did you read that
So
afterwards or?
I read Annie's book beginning February or so. And I always say that
Okay.
kind of sealed the deal for me.
Okay.
I was like, oh my God. Even when she said
Yeah.
spontaneous, I'm like, that's me. Like,
Yeah.
that was me. But I do have to say the reading her book was like, I connected 100%. But then what really got me is her podcast,
Mm,
because listening to other people's stories,
yeah.
like I couldn't wait every week. I went through all of them
Yeah.
in a month, and I got caught up, and I'm like, oh man, do I have to wait? So listening to other people's stories
Yeah.
is that connection that you think, oh, I can only be the one thinking about that, or I can only be the one, I love my kids who on their right mind drinks with their kids in the car. Like, alcohol does that thing that you think that you are okay, you're in control. but you're not. And I think that listening to everybody's story, whether some people have different stories or whatnot, being at the table and drinking wine, and what do your kids say? And my entire motivation for all this and stopping is really wanting to change kids that are, in their teenage years or above generation, or kids, small kids, whatever, that to see that alcohol is not okay. But if you see it in the house so normal, it's hard to have that to say like, well, my parents did it, or it's even hard for me to tell my kids, well, don't drink because that's going to be horrible when I'm getting plowed at night and they see the bottles of wine or the bottles of beer, it is hard to say that. And that was part also of my connection of like, I can't be telling my, my then 10 and 12-year-old kids not to be, eat healthy, not to have sugary stuff when I am not doing that. You have to model, say what you do,
Yeah, exactly. You're a lot of most learning is what we catch.
Right.
We caught is how
Exactly.
we're taught. And I think that's the big thing that I want to do too. It's like, no, not everybody drinks.
Yep.
And yes, I did drink, and
Right.
the anxiety and the cancer and all that. And I want to just say that I just think your story is beautiful because you learned, like you were like, no, I've got to make a change here for my kids. And the beauty of you being present, the two of you. And I want to ask you this, do you feel like you were the ringleader then, since your husband is now like just like drastically cut back? Because I feel like at times I was really an instigator, because we get in the car and I'd be like, oh, let's go right now. Let's go.
100%. Looking back, yes, there are times that I'll be like, come on, you need to go to the store. We were out and it's just around the corner. Like, and he would just, do it. So 100%, yes, I would be, if this would have been the other way around, and I hate saying this, but I would have been the one like being like, this is not who I married. I wanted to go out. Let's do this, or that idea of you have to have fun, when you drink.
Well, I know you're fun, but what do you do for fun now that you're not, that your life isn't revolving around going out and drinking?
I do the same things.
Awesome.
But I do them. So we were my youngest son plays lacrosse and he's very competitive and involved. My other one plays soccer. Again, we live on the weekends with just doing sports and then hanging out with friends, still going to places, but we just don't drink. And it is just fun. People think it's like, oh, it's boring. No, it's wonderful because I wake up without a hangover. I've got more energy. Gosh, the benefits. And I always say, I know it sounds like an old record, but it is the clarity that I have, the remembering, the being on top of, and I've never felt healthier, to be honest.
That's so
And that's
awesome.
the beauty.
Matt, do you want to ask her the big
My
question?
final question. Since now that you don't drink, what's your favorite go-to alcohol-free beverage?
So I've got two. I love, I still like a cold beer. I love that. So like people are like, no, I do like beer because I've noticed that there's a lot of times I've won races, or you do a race and then they don't have any AF beer. So, but it's so if it's the AF beer, I would say it's Brewing, Athletic Brewing.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
One that's orange that I love. And the other one, if they don't have that, I have just like tonic water with lime, and you can put a little bit of mint and ice, and it just makes me. I still like fancy, like
Yeah.
they serve it. I like having. I am that person that I like having a drink.
Yeah.
Yes.
And people
100%.
never even notice what I'm drinking, so it doesn't matter, So yeah, I just find that refreshing. So those two are usually my to go drinks.
Two of my favorites.
Yeah. Well, now how can everybody get a hold of you?
Yes, you can go to the AF Planet. Yep, you have it there on the screen,
Right.
aplanet.com, and you can check me out there, my story, and they can and by the way, if I haven't said this, which was maybe obvious but not so obvious, I am bilingual too. So anybody that speaks Spanish, I would love to connect with them, because I think that a lot of that South America, Latin American countries, being AF is more of a new concept or idea.
Yeah.
So connecting, would be awesome.
And I know on your website, it's also, you have English and you have
And Spanish.
Yes.
Yep.
So I think that is something that people need to know. And you are representing a voice that is going to resonate out on this alcohol-free planet that you're wanting to keep going forward on. And I really so appreciate you being here today with us.
Oh my God, I'm so thankful to being here. I love this, and it was great to finally meet you, Matt. So
awesome.
Thank
you.
We will send people your way. And again, I thank you so much for being on here with us.
Well, thank you, Karina, for being on the Alcohol-Free Marriage and More podcast. I love the interview, and I love that she's one of the first I've ever met that are a bilingual coach.
I know,
which
I
is
love
great,
it
too.
I absolutely love it. Her website is you can go to theafplanet.com, and she has it in both English and Spanish.
Nice.
And so I think that
and
is
probably accurately translated versus just like random Google Translate.
yes. And so I just think it's wonderful what she's doing. I love her passion, and she is making a difference in her community.
That is awesome. Well, and you all are awesome as well. Thanks for hanging out with us this week on the Alcohol-Free Marriage and More podcast. Join us next week for another fun-filled interview we have coming up.
Yes.
Very excited about this one.
Yes. Can't wait. Another coach. So and then we're going to be dabbling into the fitness world.
Yes. Oh, stay tuned for that. All right, kids, that's it for us this week. Thank you for joining us. I am Matt, along with Coach Amy, wishing you peace and love from the cornfields, and we are out.